with the Seattle Seahawks. Really tough week. Tough weekend, tough game for the Seahawks here. Going into Baltimore team that had really manhandled the Detroit Lions, a Detroit Lions team that looked like one of the best in the league outside of the loss to the Seahawks early in the season. And the Ravens continue to look strong. They handily defeat the Seahawks 37-3. Seattle's offense hold only one field goal in this game. The offense struggles largely. The offensive line gets manhandled by the front seven of Baltimore, affecting Geno Smith's play. Geno Smith throws 2 interceptions. Really tough all-around game here. The defense, I put less blame on the defense considering how long they had to be on the field. Baltimore had 40 minutes of possession in this game. The Seahawks, the first few drives, the Seahawks defense was able to hang tough. They got a strip sack of Lamar Jackson. Boye Mafe continues his strong play. We'll talk about him. But when you have to go out there again and again and again, eventually teams are going to get long drives against you. That's what Baltimore was able to do by the third quarter. By the end of the third quarter, this was no longer a game. So really, really tough one. This is the second biggest loss of the Pete Carroll era in terms of deficit, and one that really could be a big turning point, a big moment in this Seattle season for these Seahawks as we're around that midpoint of the year. And games like this matter. There's going to be a big stretch in a few weeks where Seattle's going to need to put together some gutsy performances against some good teams. Dallas, Philly, and the 49ers twice in a span of 3 weeks. And if this is any indication on how some things might go, it's not good. Baltimore, again, though, might be one of the best teams in the entire NFL, considering how strong their defense is, how Lamar is, and the talent group around him. We look at the offensive player of the game. Not a lot going on the offensive side of the ball. The team's leading rusher was Kenneth Walker III with only 19 yards. I believe it was 19 yards. It might have been 16 in actuality. I will double check that for you just so I can get that right. But point being, less than 20 yards on the ground is not something that's just sustainable. 16 yards, 9 carries. Zach Charbonnet, 4 rushes for only 8 yards. Geno Smith, 1 interception, got sacked 4 times. Not great in this one. Jackson Smith-Njigba leads the team, 6 receptions for 63 yards, long of 35 on 7 targets. DK Metcalf only gets 1 reception on 4 targets. Not a good day overall. Just a really hard game for this offense, not able to get anything going. Geno Smith loses a fumble. That's 2 turnovers, 1 interception, and 1 turnover. Just a tough night there. Day for the offense here. Jackson Smith-Njigba, though, nice to see if we're going to take some positives out of these games. Continued decent play, strong play as he continues on in his rookie year. Speaking on continuing strong years, Boye Mafe in his second season, 6 total tackles, 5 solo tackles, 1 sack, and 1 fumble recovery in this game against the Ravens. His 6 consecutive games with a sack ties a franchise record, which is Michael Sinclair. He also joins some big company in doing so around the entirety of the NFL. So really nice from Boye Mafe there, continuing to make an impact, rushing the passer, getting the sacks, having the fumble recoveries, nice, recovering his own strip sack. It's big to see him continue to perform. Again, we talked about the pass rush for this Seattle team for years, and just wanting to see it improve, and having a guy that you drafted in Boye Mafe make the big leap from year 1 to year 2 here is really strong from this front office. That they believed in what they saw in him, and they knew that he was going to be someone that needed to improve, but they liked what the potential of him could be. Nothing too bad per se when it comes to the inactives list. Just kind of some of the guys who have been there already: Devin Bush, Kyu Blue Kelly, McClendon Curtis, Raekwon O'Neal, Miles Adams. Offensive guard Anthony Bradford was not able to go, but Phil Haynes was able to go. Jason Peters got elevated from the practice squad once again and did start on and off at the right tackle position, switching spots with Stone Forsythe. The Seahawks did have 2 injuries coming out of this game. Running back DJ Dallas and outside linebacker Derek Hall both left this game with shoulder injuries. Every Monday, head coach Pete Carroll has his weekly show after the games, usually where he talks about the game itself. He did not have any sort of clarification on those two injuries, which is unfortunate. So that's something to keep an eye on with DJ Dallas, someone obviously another running back on this team, someone who handles return duties. Will be notable to see what is up with him. Derek Hall, another a rookie year guy, someone else you're looking to grow as a pass rusher. And interesting to see how that affects him, how he's doing. So this was an all around tough game. I mean, again, you have to factor in how good Baltimore has been, how good their defense has been coming into this game. Seattle's offense hadn't exactly been fully clicking. The struggles to add on in the wins against Arizona, against Cleveland. Cleveland's got one of the better defenses in the league. So does Baltimore. The only difference is here, the Ravens have a far better offense, I would say, than the Browns right now. And it really showed out in this game. I'm not going to put a ton of stock into this game about the demise and the doom and this and that. You got to watch the entire tape here. People blaming Geno Smith for everything are foolish. Just to say, oh, he's a bad quarterback. He's this, and that. Geno Smith is not the future at quarterback for the Seahawks. He shouldn't be, but he signed that deal. Seattle was very okay with what they had in the moment. They said, "We see what you can do. We have the weapons around you," and they didn't feel like they needed to waste draft capital on a quarterback at this point in time. They felt happy with that. They felt happy with what Geno Smith can provide going forward. And so they gave him that deal. They rewarded him for coming out and performing as he did last season. And he's still a fine quarterback. He has a couple mistakes in these games, but if you look at the way that the Ravens defense got to him this past game, you can't blame this game on Geno Smith. I'm not saying he was great. I'm not justifying the mistakes that happened in these games, but I'm saying it's not fully on him. Expecting Drew Lock to come in and do any better is foolish. It's foolish. You have to look at the entirety of the game, not just one man. And a lot of casual sports fans do that. And that's fine. If you want to, think on a basic level, that's okay. You can think on a basic level, but you have to look at the overall. Don't zoom in, zoom out and see the entirety of the play and see the struggles that the offensive line is having, because these guys are getting beaten inside. And I don't blame them necessarily a ton. This is a great Baltimore defense. You have to look at the play calling as well. You're looking at these long developing plays. Just throw the ball, Geno. None of these guys are open. So you want him to throw in the coverage. You want him to just throw it out of bounds and take an intentional grounding call. I don't know. It's some of the things you hear just kind of let you know the level of understanding that some folks have of the game of football. Just asking a guy to throw it when no one's open is the choice. It's very much a choice. So again, not saying that Geno has been playing excellent, but certainly need to give him more support, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's the play calling. That's got to come around. We can't run the ball either. When you only got your lead back has 16 yards on the ground, that's not great. Seattle used to play. I say used to earlier in the season had a lot of involvement with their tight ends. Whether it was in the run game or in the passing game off play action, they've gone away from that. And they especially went away from that in this game against the Ravens. I don't know why. When you're playing a front seven it wouldn't hurt to have a guy like one of your tight ends chip the pass rushers, be involved in the run game. And then you can play action off of that. I don't know. It's interesting to see what we've received lately from Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator of Seattle. Excuse me, in terms of play calling and such. So there was positive. It did drop the day after we got out of last week's show, which was kind of funny. The team traded for defensive lineman Leonard Williams. So Seattle sends over a 2024 second round pick and a 2025 fifth round pick to the Giants. 1 second. Yes, a 2024 second round pick and a 2025 fifth round pick to the New York Giants. New York sends over defensive lineman Leonard Williams. Williams will pay not Williams. The Giants will play all but the veteran minimum base salary for the rest of the season for the Seahawks. So the Seahawks are paying a guy that's going to be a big factor on the defensive line all but the veteran minimum, which is big. New York, they're kind of in a weird spot. Their quarterback situation hasn't been great. Even when Daniel Jones has been healthy, he's not healthy anymore. They didn't have a fire sale necessarily, but Seattle gets a guy who's in the last year of his contract. I'm not sure how the compensatory pick may go if he walks in free agency, but with the rest of the season going on and how he looked against Baltimore, looked good as a three technique, the versatility that Leonard Williams can bring you. Pete Carroll guy, I mean, in terms of being at USC, I would imagine that Seattle looks to bring Leonard Williams back. And to give up a second round pick when you had some other picks from Denver and that Russell Wilson trade, it kind of eases giving up that second round pick. So that was positive. Just one, unfortunate that his first game is this loss, and two, unfortunate as well that wasn't able to get this into the show because it happened right after we had finished recording. So, looking ahead, the Seahawks sit at a 5-3 record. They're good for second in the NFC West currently. Their next game back at home, back at Lumen Field. So they come back after playing another 10 a.m. start on the road. They will play November 12th versus the Washington Commanders at 1:25 Pacific time. Washington's an interesting team. They did just beat the New England Patriots this past weekend when the Seahawks had lost. But they have struggled this season. Sam, just a few games ago, it was Jonathan Allen, defensive lineman for Washington, who used a few expletives and saying he was, basically tired of the losing and the way that this Commanders team has struggled for a good amount of time. So Washington might be out to prove something wrong. And they're very motivated, but also Seattle should be very motivated after such a bad loss like they suffered against the Ravens. So it'll be interesting to see that. That game will be on Fox.